This essay example, as well as thousands of others, is available in text format on our website for free and without registration. Simply Google Ivy Panda Free Essays.
Rose Maxon is the main female character of August Wilson's famous play Fences. The author opposes the feminine spiritual strength of Rose, who is physically weak, to the manly physical strength of Troy, who lacks psychic and emotional strength. Rose is portrayed as a strong woman due to her ability to oppose her husband, her readiness to accept dramatic events in her life and overcome them, and her spiritual strength expressed in wisdom and unconditional love to her dearest ones. Though Rose is married to a man with patriarchal views and seems to be dominating the family, she is strong enough to oppose him and express her opinions. First of all, Rose opposes Troy when he is doing the wrong things. She openly talks about her disagreement with Troy's forbidding their son Corey to go to college on a football scholarship. She also criticizes him for refusing to give money to his elder son Lyons and manages to force him to change his mind by saying, "Let the boy have $10, Troy." This situation reveals the strong impact Rose has on Troy's actions. Besides, though Troy behaves like a husband demanding full respect and obedience from his wife using the cliches of patriarchal men like "this is men talk, woman," Rose often participates in Troy's conversations with other men and opposes the opinions he expresses. She also permits herself to criticize Troy and say things that can potentially hurt his ego and point to his weak sides. "Troy, why don't you admit you were too old to play in the major league? For once. Why don't you admit that?" Except for verbal opposition to their husband, Rose also dares to refuse Troy when he tries to kiss her by saying, "Troy, you better leave me alone." This detail demonstrates that Rose is not afraid of her husband and has enough strength to make him respect her wishes. She is not afraid of demonstrating her emotions to him. She confesses that considering Troy the person she has to live for was her choice, and nobody forced her to do it. "I took on his life as mine and mixed up the pieces so that you could hardly tell which was which anymore. It was my choice. It was my life, and I didn't have to live it like that." However, after discovering Troy's betrayal, she confidently proclaims, "This child got a mother. But you are a womanless man." Though Rose plays the role of a housewife and recognizes Troy's leading role in the family, she is not portrayed as a weak woman unable to oppose her husband. On the contrary, the author introduces the readers to the woman who has a strong influence on her husband and expresses her wishes and opinions openly. Another aspect of Rose's strength is related to her readiness to face difficult situations and overcome them. In contrast to Troy, who is stuck in his past failures and regrets, Rose demonstrates the ability to move over bad situations. This feature is brightly illustrated by Rose's behavior after discovering her husband's faithlessness. Even though she is shocked by Troy's affair with Alberta and the news about their child, she finds enough strength in herself to try to save her family and find a solution. Her strong personality enables her to gain her self-control and cold-mindedness and try to deal with the problem. Even though Troy does not seem to be eager to refuse his affair, Rose insists, "I am your wife. Don't push me away." Only a powerful woman can behave like this after experiencing enormous stress related to revealing the faithlessness of her husband. Rose's ability to overcome the past and continue living in spite of grief is also reflected in her ability to forgive. Even though she is deeply offended by Troy's betrayal, after his death, she behaves like a devoted wife who forgives her husband's past mistakes. When Corey refuses to go to Troy's funeral, she says, "Boy, hush your mouth. That's your daddy you're talking about. I don't want to hear that kind of talk this morning." Only a strong woman can manage not to let her feelings of resentment toward her husband influence the attitudes of their children toward him. The author reveals Rose's strong personality by demonstrating her ability to move on and forgive for the sake of her family. I think the brightest illustration of the fact that Rose is a strong woman is her feminine spiritual strength. Her main strength is related to her ability to share love with the dearest ones and judge life situations and people's feelings wisely. Being an ordinary housewife, Rose surprises the reader with numerous manifestations of her vast wisdom throughout the text. She wisely sees the initial motives of the behavior of Corey, everything that boy does. He does for you. He wants you to say, "Good job, son." That's all. She also reveals Troy's motives. Your daddy wanted you to be everything he wasn't. Her wisdom is also expressed in her understanding of a leading woman's role in family life, and whenever you were going. I wanted to be there with you. 'Cause you were my husband. 'Cause that's the way I was gonna survive as your wife. Her wisdom is also reflected in her decision to raise the daughter of her husband and his mistress, and you can't visit the sins of the father upon the child. Besides the wisdom, Rose demonstrates the strength of feminine cordiality and kindness. She gives her love to all members of the family and agrees to raise Raynell because she knows that a motherless child has got a hard time. The primary source of Rose's strength is her loving, kind heart, enabling her to overcome any distress. Rose's spiritual strength is opposed to Trey's egoism, which encourages him to consider himself a victim and get stuck in regrets. Rose Maxon is presented by Wilson as a strong woman capable of opposing her husband and dealing with difficult situations with the help of the feminine strength given to her by her warm and loving heart. This essay on Rose Maxon character in the play Fences by August Wilson was written and submitted by a student just like you. The Ivy Panda Samples database hosts thousands of works similar to this one on various subjects. Visit ivypanda.com to find what you are looking for.